So today we're celebrating 20 years of the Big Latch On and chatting all about breast and chest feeding. My name is Vivian. I'm a mama to a 2.5-year-old. I'm a lactation consultant and registered nurse for Plunkett Line and for NICU in the Wellington Regional Hospital. Over to you, Shannon.
Kia ora, everybody. Welcome to our Big Latch On chat today. My name is Shannon. I'm one of the lactation consultants who work here for Whanua Whina Plunkett Line. Our team provides online breastfeeding support for women all over Aotearoa. I'm also a registered nurse working on a busy maternity ward. I'm currently taking a little break from that role at the moment. I'm also a breastfeeding counsellor. I provide mother-to-mother breastfeeding support to women in the community. And lastly, but most importantly, I'm a breastfeeding mum. I have breastfed 3 children and I'm still breastfeeding my youngest, who is 3.5 years old, and he may or may not pop in and join us for some of our chat today.
Oh, that's amazing. So today we are going to talk about the common question, how long should I breastfeed for? We are also going to talk a little bit about our experiences as moms breastfeeding beyond 2 years. We'll share tips about breastfeeding, including breastfeeding in public and breastfeeding on demand, and what normal breastfeeding behavior can look like, where to get extra support if you're having challenges with breastfeeding, and some advice about managing final expectations as well. So, Shannon, a common question people usually have would be how long should they breastfeed for?
Yeah, absolutely, Vivian. You're right. It is a really common question. So the World Health Organization, or WHO, recommend exclusive breastfeeding in the first 6 months and breastfeeding up until 2 years and beyond. Families wean for many different reasons and at many different times. So the important thing to know is that our babies need our breast milk until they're at least 1 year of age. Up until that time, breast milk is a very vital part of their nutrition, along with family foods, which we start to introduce at around 6 months. From 1 year of age, breastfeeding can still provide your baby with about 30% of their nutritional needs, and it has so many vitamins, and it's also a really great source of protein. Breastfeeding beyond 2 years, some people call that extended breastfeeding, whatever you want to call it. Vivian and I, we both have children who we breastfeed that are older than 2 years. Vivian, would you like to share an experience about your breastfeeding for your baby who's 2.5 now?
Yes. I just love it. It's our time. It's just me and him. It's a really easy way to soothe him, and it's also really convenient. Like I've just got to be there. I don't have to wash anything. I don't have to bring anything. In the beginning, I was definitely more self-conscious with him being my first puppy and growing up in a culture where it is not widely accepted to be breastfeeding in public. There were times where I'm breastfeeding and people that I know have tossed me a cloth, passed me a cloth, and asked me to cover up. I know that they have good intentions, but I was like, I'm not doing something that I should be ashamed of. But the more I feed, the more comfortable I become, the more affirmed I am that I'm nourishing my beautiful puppy anywhere, anytime he needs. And I really hope that I can help normalize it for others who might be feeling the same way I once did. Yeah. And what about you, Shannon?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for me, breastfeeding my older children. So my first breastfeed until he was over 4, my second until he was about 4.5, and my youngest is about 3.5 now. I don't know if I ever really made a conscious choice around this issue. It just was one of those really natural progressions because our breastfeeding was mutually beneficial. We both really enjoyed it. At no point, well, until they weaned, did they sort of say that they don't need it anymore. It was quite nice as well for my older children, they were able to verbalize that. They were able to talk about, I don't need it anymore, which was nice. Yeah, so I mean, when we're thinking about those deciding factors and continuing breastfeeding, I think it's important to acknowledge like the things that shouldn't be a deciding factor with continuing your breastfeeding journey. Things like returning to work and, you know, those social pressures, such as you mentioned as well, Vivian. It really should be a decision that about you because it's your journey, and about your baby, and because it's their journey as well. There's so many benefits to breastfeeding for as long as it's mutually beneficial. Breast milk and breastfeeding doesn't just cut off at a certain age at being good. So all of those benefits that we know about breastfeeding, the health benefits, the benefits to their immune system, so keeping them healthy, they continue on as long as you're breastfeeding for. I think when I'm thinking about breastfeeding older children, most mums would agree that it almost fixes anything. You know,
For
your
sure.
baby is,
Yeah.
yeah, your baby falls over and they're hurt, or they're sick, or upset, they're having trouble falling asleep. Breastfeeding really is the answer to all of those problems.
Yes.
It really helps to regulate our children. It's a really bonding experience, and it helps to co-regulate them, and they need that co-regulation.
Yeah.
And just touching on when our older children are sick, that can be a really stressful time for us as parents. And, you know, they often go off their food and even off water, but often a breastfed baby will still breastfeed. And so that is really reassuring to help keep them nourished and hydrated in those times. So that's a real big positive about breastfeeding.
Yeah.
Um, there are also benefits for women as well in terms of extended breastfeeding. So the longer we breastfeed for, it lowers our risk of ovarian and breast cancer. It's also great for our heart and bone health. And as well as that, it also lowers our risk of diabetes, which is fantastic. Um, and yeah, I think the main advice around, you know, deciding how long we should breastfeed for is, I always say to mums, you know, think about this as your journey, and your baby's journey, because that's really the most important thing when you're thinking about how long to breastfeed for.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it. Thank you, Shannon. Do you have any advice for breastfeeding while out and about?
Yeah, sure. So, as you mentioned, that can be really difficult, breastfeeding out and about. Sometimes for women, it can feel really, you can feel self conscious. I think that it's really important for all women to know that you have the legal right to breastfeed your baby. Your baby has the right to be breastfed. So you can breastfeed anywhere in public spaces, restaurants, parks, shops. If you need to stop and breastfeed, you absolutely have the right to do that. In terms of feeling comfortable and confident to breastfeed out and about, that can be challenging because we're all different, right? We're all nervous about different things. I'm nervous about being here today. So I encourage you to just get out there and try it, because we need to see other women doing it. We need to see women breastfeeding in public for us to feel more comfortable,
Absolutely. Yes.
and for us to normalize it as well. I was breastfeeding my preschooler once at preschool drop off. He was, I think, about 4 at the time. And I was walking out to my car afterwards, and a mum came up to me and she said, you know, oh, it was just so beautiful to see you breastfeeding him today. I wanted to let you know I'm also still breastfeeding my son, but we don't do it in public, but I wish I could have that confidence to do that. But yeah, so it is really common, and more common than you actually think, because there are women that just, we don't we don't talk about it when our kids get to
Mm.
a certain age sometimes. So I encourage you to talk to your friends about it, talk to your family about it, and definitely do it out and about as well. So a lot of like what we talk about with breastfeeding, the language that we might use is baby led and on demand. Vivian, can you talk us through what that means?
Oh, absolutely, Shannon. So, breastfeeding on demand, it's feeding your Pepe whenever they're hungry rather than on a schedule. And that's so crucial as it supports their growth and our milk supply as well. So, term thriving Pepes, they are intuitive eaters. And the question we often get is about cluster feeding, where Pepe just wants to feed and feed and feed and feed. And it usually happens in the late afternoons or evening. And yes, cluster feeding is normal and it's very important. There are a few reasons why Pepe cluster feed. So as the day goes on, there's a slower flow of milk and milk supply decreases. So by evening time, they may need to feed very frequently. When you're fed so much, I know sometimes your boobs feel a little bit empty, but I promise they are not. Our Pepe may seem unsettled and they are using that behavior to help with our milk flow. So our breast, they are never really empty. Instead of one suck, they might need to do three sucks to get the same amount. The composition, the fat content of breast milk is also higher during cluster feeding, and it actually helps prepare them for the rest of the night. It can also be that just like us, after a long day, they too feel overwhelmed. So, breastfeeding and being close, lots of skin to skin, baby wearing lots of cuddles can help to regulate their nervous system as well. Cluster feeding also happens, especially during growth spurts, because it's your little one telling our body to produce more milk. It's a demand and supply. The more milk is removed from our body, the more milk our body will produce. Being unwell, like you said, Shannon, earlier, can also be a reason why Pepe cluster feeds. So, breast milk is a living, responsive fluid that changes exactly to what Pepe needs. So, being around your sick Pepe, your body too will produce all of that lovely antibodies in your milk, which will help your Pepe stay hydrated and make their sickness less severe, and they can heal faster as well. So, when they are sick, give them all the hugs, all the kisses that you can. That lovely antibodies will be in your breast milk to help them get better quicker. So what we usually just recommend, getting comfortable, having your favorite crackers, your snacks, water, putting on your favorite show, and keep on breastfeeding. You've got this. It can be really intense, but you've got this. So, a few things we can usually recommend to make it maybe slightly easier would be using breast compressions to help Peppy get more milk more efficiently, switching from side to side, gentle movement like rocking or bouncing on a yoga ball or walking around while breastfeeding. Lots of skin to skin, lots of cuddles in between feeds. Breastfeeding on demand is also 24/7. So it means that it's normal for Pepe to breastfeed during the night as well. Breastfeeding at night can be really helpful in maintaining or boosting milk supply because that's where our prolactin levels are the highest. There are a few unicorns out there that are able to sleep through the night a couple of months old. And if there's no concerns with their growth, I would just take and run with it. But more often than not, they still wake up for a feed, and that is a biological norm. So as our tamariki gets older, they usually wake less often at night to feed. There are little tweaks that can be made to adjust sleep, but the main thing would be responding to their needs, and they'll sleep longer when they are able to. Um, Cluster and night feeding can be exhausting, and it's so easy to think, "Oh my goodness, what's going on?" But it is normal. It's not a sign that you don't have enough milk. Another common question is, am I producing enough? Is my Peppy getting enough milk? Shannon, would you like to elaborate on that?
Absolutely. So many mothers worry about their milk supply. And as Vivian mentioned, cluster feeding isn't a sign that you don't have enough milk, but it is often one of those things that trigger mums to be quite worried. So I think that of the consults that I do with Plunket Line, probably that concern around supply is probably the most common reason why women come to speak to me. And so when we're thinking about, is my baby getting enough? Am I producing enough? We look to a few things to provide that reassurance. And these are things that you can see as mums at home. Okay, so what goes in must come out. So our baby's output is one of our best guides for how they're going and are they getting enough milk. So from birth up until like the first week, the output slowly increases. So on day 1, we're looking for 1 wee and 1 poo. Day 2, 2 wees and 2 poos, and that slowly builds up into about from 1 week. And then from 1 week to about 6 weeks of age, we're looking for around 6 very wet nappies in a 24-hour period and around 3 poos, which they can be quite small, about the size of the palm of your baby's hand. If your baby's having that output, it's a good sign that they're getting exactly what they need. Other things that we can use to help gauge if baby's getting what they need and you've got a good supply is baby's growth. So we look at their weight, but not only that, we also look at their height and their head circumference, and we monitor those things across the early weeks and months of a baby's life to monitor, is baby getting what they need, as well as frequency of feeding is quite an important point when it comes to supply. So when we talk about frequency of feeding, the average very young baby will breastfeed anywhere between 8 and 14 times in 24 hours. And some mums are really surprised with that and they feel like that, wow, that's actually a lot more than I thought. And so if we're not feeding frequently enough, our body is not able to make the supply that it needs. And so that's another factor that we look at when a mum might be concerned about supply. As well as that, we look towards towards the baby. What's that baby telling us? Is the baby having across the day periods of contentment? All babies cry. Crying is absolutely normal, and crying alone isn't a reliable source of your baby not getting enough. It's really common though for a mum to kind of say, I've breastfed them and then they're crying, I mustn't have enough milk. But if that baby's got really great output and mum's breastfeeding on demand, 8, 10, 12 times a day, and their growth is going well, that crying really isn't an indicator of anything being wrong. Babies cry, that's how they communicate with us. And as well as that, we're looking for things like, is baby alert during the day? So, having periods where they're awake and alert and engaged, particularly in a breastfeed. At the start of a breastfeed, they're like, eyes open, really working to have an active breastfeed. A very, very sleepy baby for me is a bit of a red flag. So if any of the things that I've spoken about today for our viewers, make you think, oh, actually my baby's not doing that, or please reach out to us. We're here to help you. Call Plunket Line and you can speak to one of our amazing lactation consultant team or one of the registered nurses who are actually also really knowledgeable when it comes to breastfeeding as well. On that note, one of the greatest things that you can do when you're breastfeeding is to get help, and to get help early. So I'm a great believer that women and mothers, they know their baby better than anyone else, and they have really amazing intuition when it comes to breastfeeding and their baby. And so if you're worried or concerned, or if you had questions, get help. And in New Zealand, we're really lucky. We've got quite a wide variety of help available to us. And so I thought I'd just quickly run through some of those things for you. So mother to mother support, I cannot tell you how valuable this is. Women know so much and are so knowledgeable and so inspiring and empowering for other women. Reach out to the women in your community or in online spaces and learn from them. They're walking the same journey as you, or they've already walked it, and so they will be able to help you in some way to get the answers that you're looking for. If you're not sure how to find mother to mother support, there's a website called Women's Health Action, and that's got a breastfeeding support find option there. There's also the Late League. In most regions in New Zealand, you will have a local hospital lactation consultant or a community-based lactation consultant available to you. It varies from area to area, so you can find that also on the Women's Health Action website as well. We also have private lactation consultants in New Zealand, so you can reach out and for a fee have a consultation with a lactation consultant. You can find them at the same spot, the Women's Health Action, or you can go to the NZLCA website and use the find my lactation consultant function there. And in New Zealand, we have a wonderful network of breastfeeding medicine specialists. They are doctors who are specifically trained and have a special interest in breastfeeding and lactation. They are your go-to if you have a more complex health history, for example, or something really complex going on within your breastfeeding and lactation journey. And then there's Plunket Line. So there's us, there's Vivian and I and the incredible team of lactation consultants that work here. Our service is free and it's for everybody. So whether you're a Plunket client or any other Well Child Tamariki Order client, you can use our service. You can book with us really easily online on the Plunket website. You can, in the search engine, pop in, find my lactation consultant and book online yourself, choosing a day and time that suits yourself. Otherwise, you can call Plunket Line on 933 922 and speak to our wonderful staff there and get an appointment to see one of us because it's free, it's for you, it's for your pepe. So it's a really good idea to get help early. So
That's
Vivian,
really
I've been
helpful.
speaking quite a lot. I thought I might hand over to you. Would you like to talk now about managing whānau expectations, because it can be a real difficult one for many family members. What's your advice around that?
Oh, but that's really helpful. Thank you, Shannon. With whānau, because whānau plays such a crucial role in supporting breastfeeding mothers. A lot of the time, whānau wants to help, but just not quite sure how to. So that support, it can look like cleaning the house. It can be picking up all the tamariki from school, preparing meals, encouraging mamas to trust their body, and that they're just doing such an absolute beautiful job. And we always so to support you know the feeding journey, breastfeeding mamas. There's so many things around that whānau can help out with, and during the video calls as well, when you book in with us, get them to join in as well. We can make a plan together. Um, yeah. And also, at the end of the day, you are the parent, you know your little one the best, and you're doing an amazing job. Yeah. Lastly, as someone who is working with breastfeeding mamas every day, what's the one piece of advice you'll give?
Whew, only one piece. That's really hard to choose. There's so many. I'm going to do two.
Yes.
So first, my first one would be a little shout out to any hapu mama that we might have watching us today. So if you're pregnant, the best way to prepare for your breastfeeding journey is to get some antenatal education around breastfeeding, which can really help with particularly those first few days and the first few weeks to know what's normal. And I think I'd like to share as my piece of advice from women that I speak to would be around burping. You don't have to do it. It's, it's probably one of the things that I see a lot of that baby has finished. Oh, hello there.
Hello. My
Baby
lovely
has
one.
finished a breastfeed and is content and is asleep, but our society has told us that we have to burp our baby. And so that we take this beautiful sleeping, content baby and we bring it up on our shoulders, or we do some other interesting little hold and we work to get a burp out. And I speak to mums who are so exhausted all the time. They're like, I burp for like half an hour and it takes so long to get a burp out. And then they wake up and they've woken up from their sleep and then they're upset and then I have to burp them again. I have to feed again and then I have to burp them again. And it's this cycle. So you actually don't need to do that. You can just leave your baby. If your baby is asleep and content, let them sleep. You do not need to burp your breastfeeding baby. So that would be probably my one little my little bit of a tip. I think we've got a question in the chat. Would you like to answer this, Vivian? Do you have any advice on dealing with the breastfeeding mental load? I find it really hard to cope having to feed so often, every 2 to 3 hours, often for about 20 to 30 minutes at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. And oh, that is such a great question because it can be really overwhelming. It's a lot.
Yes.
You spend the most part of your day breastfeeding. And I think just having that really good support around you if possible. Anything that doesn't need you doing, anything that can be done by someone else, let them do it.
Yeah,
Yes, and
absolutely.
because you're feeding so often as well, it's so important that breastfeeding is also very comfortable. So if that's not comfortable, reach out. We'll see if there's
Mm,
yeah.
I think it's really common for us to, with that mental load, to feel like we need to do it all or we have to do it all, and we don't. Because we can't, it's not possible, right? There's so much. So I remember as a first time mum really being resistant to any help and assistance being offered to me. Lean into it, take
Yes.
every piece of um, offering of help that is given to you. If someone offers to clean your floors, accept that offer. If they offer to
Yes.
feed you, accept that offer. Because what you're doing for your baby at the moment, spending those 20 to 30 minutes, every 2 to 3 hours is the most important mahi. You are breastfeeding and nourishing and supporting your baby. And yeah, let the others take the load of the household. And yeah, that would be my advice there.
Yeah. Oh, I think we have another question. How long do I need to pump to start a stash of milk before I start returning to work at 6 months?
I get that question quite a bit, and I'm actually really glad that it's come up on our chat today. You do not need a breast milk stash before you go back to work. I think probably in our culture at the moment, there's a lot of social media. Hello, we're on Facebook Live. That influencing what we see and think about breastfeeding. So you do not need a freezer stash to return to work. What I would recommend doing is contacting us and having a consult. I actually do lots of consults for women who are returning to work. And this topic is a big topic to talk about to help prepare you, all the things to think about to make it as easy as possible for you, but you don't need a stash, is the short answer. And we've got time for one last question. I'll give this one to you, Vivian. How do you breastfeed when wearing bras?
There's so much out in the market. There's the breastfeeding bras where you unclip it from the top and pull it down, or even bras that, if they have a little bit of give, it need not be a breastfeeding bra as well. Just popping it from the bottom or from the top, they will both work. Yeah. I think that the trickier bras to breastfeed in would probably be the underwired bras because they are quite hard. But with breastfeeding, usually that's not something we would recommend as well because that can put extra pressure on the where the wires are and with milk accumulation and all of that. So usually when you're with breastfeeding mamas, I would suggest wearing a really comfortable bra, a well-fitted one. So yeah, lots of options out there as long as you are comfortable. Yeah. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Vivian, for that. And thank you for everyone for joining us today to celebrate 20 years of the Big Latch On in New Zealand.
Yes.
We've
Thank
really
you,
enjoyed
Shannon, for sharing all of the information as well. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. All right. Well, everyone have a lovely afternoon, and that's it from us today. All right. Take care.
Take